of children while they were drawing. She would occasionally walk around to see each child's work. As she got to one little girl who was working diligently, she asked, "What are you drawing?" The girl replied, "I'm drawing God." The teacher paused and said, "But no one knows what God looks like." Without missing a beat or looking up from her drawing, the girl replied, "They will in a minute." Confidence in knowing who God is, what He's about. That's a good kind of confidence. Unfortunately, and I have to say tragically, the kind of confidence we're hearing in our gospel reading from a bunch of religious people is actually very, very tragic. I mean, it's not a good presentation of the good news and who and what God is in our gospel reading for today. You know, I prefaced the reading of the gospel with the words, "Beware of religious people." And if there is one major thing about our reading today, is the fact that a lot of different religious people are being showcased, including the disciples. As far as the disciples were concerned, seeing that man born blind was not about a physical condition. Rather, seeing a man born blind was a spiritual issue. And as far as the disciples were concerned, that man deserved to be blind. I mean, think about it. They saw the blindness of that man as a punishment from God. And so the only question in those religious people's minds, the disciples, aka, was who sinned? The parents or the man that he was born blind? I mean, it's an innocent question, I guess, from religious people. But that's not what Jesus saw. And as we hear what happened to the man who was born blind, I mean, think about how his life was changed. I mean, think about what happened to him. All of his life he couldn't see. And then the first thing he sees are a bunch of angry people, a bunch of angry religious people who are disgusted with Jesus for doing a loving, saving thing on a Saturday. How dare he break the Sabbath? That's all they could see. That's all they could see. Was a rabbi who had gone rogue and wasn't sticking to the party line. Such are the thoughts of religious people. I mean, although it is an amazing thing to think. I mean, if you went to the eye doctor and he would spit on some dirt and put it in your eyes, you would run away quite quickly, wouldn't you? I mean, the way Jesus does things is just absolutely amazing. I mean, he sees a man who will glorify God in his malady. I mean, and this is a hard thing for us to see as well. There's a lot of religiousness in us as well, if I may be so bold to say. But think about it. Your struggle, my struggle, the maladies in your life, the maladies in my life, we just go, ugh, why do I have to deal with this? Why do we have to go through that? And yet in God's economy, God can use those struggles in your life and my life to His glory. Now, if you need to be reminded of that, I'll remind you, but guess what? I need to be reminded of it as well, because when bad things happen to us, when things break and fall apart, we just think, what's going on? We don't say, oh boy, this is an opportunity for God to be glorified, right? We just don't do that. We just say our finances, or the ache in my back, or the challenges with the grandkids, or what's happening with the family. But those are the very things that Jesus, and only Jesus, if I may be so bold to say, can spit on mud and take care of. But that really messes with religious people. Beware of religious people. It's profound. What we're getting in John chapter 9 is a picture of the religion of the day, the religion in the synagogue, the religion in the temple, and how broken it was. Even the blind man, speaking of Jesus, testifying to what Jesus did, says, we know that God doesn't listen to any sinners. What kind of theology is that? Again, it's a religious position, and that makes spiritual sense to religious people. But Jesus is rocking everybody's world in our gospel reading in important ways. And my prayer is that Jesus rocks my world today and your world today as well, so that we can have a clearer idea of who Jesus is and what he does. Because he's still at work today. He's still going about in our day and in our time, doing all kinds of wonderful things. Now, we all know what that is, right? And that's where people with all kinds of different physical maladies go. Because the expectation there is that we will be helped. Maybe cured, healed. Oh, I gotta turn it on. What's that place? That's a spiritual hospital. So the challenge is, how many people see our building as a place where people can come and be spiritually healed, spiritually cared for? I mean, as profound as physical maladies are, physical problems are in our bodies, far worse are the spiritual maladies that make up your life and my life. And in our readings today, this is being showcased, this truth. What is far worse than physical blindness but spiritual blindness? And that's what Jesus is honing in on in our gospel reading for everyone present. For all of us as we hear this account being read today, so that we say, open my eyes, Lord. I want to see Jesus. I want to see more. I want to know more. There's more to see. There's more to know. How blind can we be at times in our spiritual walk with the Lord? How many ways can we fail to see the needs of those around us, let alone our own? So certainly the prayer, open my eyes, is certainly a fitting one for your life and my life. And how does that happen? And this is our Lutheran answer. Our spiritual eyes are open as we hear the law that shows us how we fall short. I mean, we all want to be decent people because we're believers. We all want to learn how to think and talk and conduct ourselves in the best ways we can. But the law continues to show how we fall short, how we fail and fumble, and how hard it can be to be what we would like to be. But for us, our salvation is in the gospel and what God has done. Certainly, we study the law. We want to learn how to live. But we take strength not in the law. We know from the law that we fall short, and it's in the gospel that we can stand. It's in the faithfulness of God, and that's the good news, that's the gospel, that we can live each day, no matter what comes our way. And when we find ourselves battered and smashed, going through many dangers, toils, and snares, as we sang in the hymn Amazing Grace, we know that we can draw near to God, because if no one else sees, He sees. He knows what we're going through. And as we continue in our life of hearing the law and celebrating and believing and trusting in the gospel, our eyes open more and more. We see more and more. And yet there's much more all through our life as we experience different things and go through different challenges. But like the little girl in elementary school, in the law and the gospel, we learn to have a greater and stronger confidence in God, because we learn more and more who he is and what he does and how he loves because of his cross and what he willingly did to lay down his life for us. And that's how we grow as we hear the law and the gospel. And we do grow all our lives. We never get to that place where we arrive. We're learning more as we go through various things, actually, so that we can share and encourage the people in our lives. As we, at times, feebly we feel, or I wish I would have done a better job with that or this, as we seek to share what we know about God. Not that we're using crayons and drawing and can't wait to show people what God looks like. But we still have that passion to share with those in our lives